Welcome, everyone, to this week's Pardon the Disruption. We are excited that you are tuning in. Mr. Disruptor, Steve Trang over here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am being personally attacked on PTD. Please subscribe to defend my name because I am being assaulted verbally.
Angry RJ Bates III today.
Potter chose violence in the group chat before. I don't understand why.
Mr. Question Mark over there, CJ.
If you want to be Michael Jordan, you want to be legendary, man, come to the U, man. What's up?
We have Leon. Do not forget the G Barnes.
I heard that we had rules on this show. Since when? Is that a new show, new year? We have rules now? I'm excited for this.
Leon, you need to read the Dynasty.
I actually have.
You need to read it again and actually try to comment.
Do not listen to RJ. It is not your
Please do not listen to RJ.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week. Thank you for joining us here on Pardon the Disruption. Welcome, everyone, to this week's Pardon the Disruption. Nice to be back in the captain's seat. Shout out to Aaron for holding down the fort last week for me. I really appreciate that. I am your host, Matthew Potter. Wanted to go ahead and give you a breakdown of how we do things around here. We're going to go ahead and show you our rules right here. Boom. There we go. We got 5 questions, 1 minute for each one of our esteemed panelists to go ahead and argue their point. 2 minutes to chop it up after that. Points are awarded during the process. The one with the most points at the end of the game or at the end of the show will ultimately win the game. We're going to go ahead and start off with our intros, starting with last week's champion. This is clearly because Aaron was judging. We have Mr. Disruptor himself, Steve Trang. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
What's going on, everybody? I'm looking forward to today's show. We got CJ back after a 2-week hiatus. I don't know what he was doing, but he was obviously too busy for the rest of us. We got the Eagles look back there. I don't know exactly what RJ is doing. And we got Stratton back, right? I said in the last episode we need more applicants for the show, and nobody applied, so we still have Stratton. And guys, we are hiring. You know, for some reason I'm being attacked on TikTok as well. We mentioned that we're looking to hire some salespeople, but don't apply if you have blue hair, and it triggered some people. But if you guys want to work with us for a sales role, disruptorsjobs.com.
Oh, man. Coming out of the gate in the intro, Steve is already going to go ahead and get some shade thrown his way. All right. Next up, we have not Mr. California, Mr. Utah. Sorry. You know, from my last episode, we have Strat Daddy. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hey, guys. My name is Stratton Brown. I own a company called Virtual Help, and we buy real estate. I'm so happy to be back. I think I got some gas for you guys today. You guys are going to like one of my answers. You guys are going to love it. But thank you guys so much for having me.
All right. So to the media team, we're going to need the censor button, ready to go. Just beep. We're going to mute him. All right. Coming to us, apparently doing his Kelsey impersonation over there, in Dallas Fort Worth right now. We have RJ Bates looking very Viking-esque. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
What's up, everybody? RJ Bates III here. The green is because it's March and it's St. Patrick's Day month, right? That's why I got this. Come on. No, I'm excited to be back. Unfortunately, we missed last week due to some internet outage going on at our office. And, man, I apologize again for y'all having to deal with Dean Rogers for a full hour. I know it's brutal. Nothing really intelligent coming from that side. And also excited that Aaron's not the judge today. That was awful. So the only thing worse than Aaron judging is Potter, though. So we're stuck with that. But, yeah, excited to be here.
Looks like we're going to be in the negative. Okay, so that's how that's going to go. All right. I was going to say something about your internet, caught something from CJ's internet. It's like a whole thing, but, we're not going to go down that road. All right, last, certainly not least, we have Mr. Richmond, VA himself, Chris CJ Jefferson. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, what's up, people? It's good to be back. Good to see everybody. RJ, you look terrible in green, man. I don't know if anyone told you today. Just had to go good with the skin tone, man. But good to see everybody. Stratton, what's up? And let's have a good episode, man.
There you go. It's going to be a great episode today. All right, we're going to get into it with question number 1. Trang Mylan, a real estate tycoon, is facing the death penalty for over $12.5 billion worth of corruption in Vietnam. What do you think of how Vietnam is handling this real estate scandal? Start us off, Steve.
If there's one way I could describe it, it's perfect. I think this is exactly how it should be done. The biggest problem in America, not the biggest problem, but one of the biggest problems is that there is no consequence for white collar crimes, right? What is it? You can steal more legally, or not. You can steal more with a pen than you can with a gun, right? It's so easy to take advantage of middle America, take advantage of old people, take advantage of just about anybody and everybody. All those guys with Enron and all these other frauds. Like freaking, remember when Countrywide had friends with can't remember the guy, but the president or the CEO of Bank of America, Countrywide, was friends with everyone at the U.S. Senate, right? It was ridiculous. If we took white collar crime seriously, guess what? Wall Street would stop stealing from people. So I think it's great. I love it. I wish we had something like that here.
Angelo Mazzello is the general.
Friends of Angelo.
There you go. There you go. You know, just throwing it back to 06 right there for you. All right, Stratton, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think he should be hung publicly, or whoever it is. I think it's a woman. The big thing is, like Steve said, there's no consequences, and there's no examples of what happens when you do these things. And this will play into like the other questions we have later on. But if someone goes out and does this, Sam Bankman-Fried, like they're thinking about not punishing him. You know, like they're kind of like pulling some stuff off and whatnot. If you hang that man in public and be like, hey, if you steal billions of dollars, this is what happens to you. That sets a very good example, right? I don't think the death penalty is quite enough, but 100% I'm with Steve. There needs to be actual consequences for corruption. I mean, we could even take this down like the Pelosi tracker. She's the best stock trader of all time, right? And there's no consequences for said corruption.
Yeah, for anybody that needs stock trading tips, Pelosi is the way to go. 100%. Just copy and paste. You're a millionaire by March. Like, you're good. All right, RJ, what about you?
Wow, I'm pretty shocked that we had two people just right out of the gates come in with the we should hang her in the streets. I think the death penalty is a little bit extreme here. And my thought process behind that is what are we learning from this person who is able to get away with $12.5 billion in corruption? Obviously, the Vietnam government is doing something about it. This is a government. The government is stepping in and saying, hey, we know the corruption has existed. This is not the only case that exists. They actually think that there's probably, I believe I read 6 more cases that she could potentially be involved in. My thought is could we do something along the lines of like with Hannibal Lecter, where we use her and we actually interview her and learn like, how were you able to get away with this? Because there's fears that there's a lot more people in Vietnam that were able to get away with this level of fraud. So just getting rid of her and killing her, I mean, it strikes fear in people, but I don't know that it's really the solution. We need to get down to how is this even able to be accomplished, in my opinion.
Point to RJ for working Hannibal Lecter into PTD without Leon even being here, our resident, serial killer specialist. So that was amazing. Exactly. All right, CJ, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I just saw this question 5 minutes before we started this. That I've never heard of Trang My Lan in my life. All right. But here's what I could conclude while you guys were speaking and breezing through this article about it. I mean, why is everybody so pissed off with her? I mean, was she in the wrong? Yeah. But what I'm reading is this seems like a government issue and this seems like an institution issue, right? And we see this happening all the time, right? How many people I see these reels on TikTok and IG and all this different stuff. People just make up the amount of their income when they're getting credit cards and auto loans. They just say that they've got jobs that they don't actually have so they can get debt. Just because it's 12.5 billion, I don't know that I really see it any differently. I think there's a regulatory issue, number one. And I think there's a personnel issue because people are getting bribed. If you've got masses of people getting bribed for a fraud of 12.5 billion, I think the problem is much bigger than Trang My Lan.
So I completely agree with you, CJ. The problem is bigger, and I think all of them should be hauled off. As far as RJ trying to figure out how did this happen, It's pretty easy. You freaking bribe government officials. It's like corruption is not a challenging concept. It's like you don't need a course. You don't need to buy a $3,000 course off of Instagram from some guy in front of the Lambo, right? Like you can figure that out pretty damn easily. And then the last thing is I will say is I am shocked that Stratton would imply that Pelosi is not naturally a better stock trader than Warren Buffett.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
Inherently a better trader, bro. Better investor.
politicians have been bribed since the beginning of government. Though that will always be the case. At some point, it becomes government responsibility of their officials. Who's auditing this? Who's paying attention to what's happening?
You want to know what? You want to know what? One of the most impressive stats that I saw about this in the article that I read. They said that the documents for this case weigh over 6 tons. That's how many documents there are for this case. How did they? Who weighed that shit? That's what I want. Whose job was that? When they're like, "Hey, weigh all those pieces of paper and see how much that weighs."
It's because they had to get the trucks involved. They're like, how many trucks do we need to take this from point A to point B to get this all the way to the courthouse steps? How much do we need?
When you're through like 3 tons, do you stop reading at that point? And it's like, okay, I think we know what happened.
Well,
we're good.
Who's reading it? You know, like who's like sitting down? What government lackey got put on that? Like, hey, bro.
Well, hopefully we got AI putting it together and AI processing it. We got CJ software on it. Offer Bolt is going through the documents. Figure out all the distress assets. So Chris is making offers and all those distress assets in Vietnam.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. I don't know if I don't know if I want to own any property there, though. It seems like, man.
Despite all this corruption, I mean, Vietnam has a lot of good things going for it, right? So there are a lot of other countries investing in Vietnam. Like the wisdom of investing in a country where the government can seize your assets at any time, right? There's risk there, but all in all, a lot of multinational companies are investing there because labor is cheap. Instead of going to India, right, you can go to Vietnam and get same caliber of people for less money. Stratton's looking over there for his VA help. So,
Steve, I don't know if you know this or not. Maybe you don't read the comments on our shorts, but you're already referred to as the communist panelist. So you saying Vietnam has a lot going for it with its communism? I
am the panel's expert on communism.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that concludes question 1. We have 4 more, and this is going to be amazing if that is question 1. All right. We're going to get into question number 2. In the U.S., 14.5% of men are 6 feet or taller. But among CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, 58% are 6 foot or taller. And among Fortune 500 CEOs, 30% are 6'2" or taller. Based on this, do you feel there is a subconscious bias toward taller men? Go ahead and start us off. Strat.
Let me preface this with a quote that I hold near and dear to my heart that I've heard for a very long time. Beta males get no bitches. 100% through and through. That is science. It's been that way forever. Now, if we take this and we extrapolate it over time, right? Over time, since the beginning of time, humans choose the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, and the smartest leader to lead them. It has been that way everywhere. It is so primal. And Fortune 500 CEOs have to be like movie stars with the amount of charisma they need to have. They need to talk to shareholders and do all this stuff. Stature plays a huge role into that. You can't pretend like it's not insanely primal for these people to be that tall. I've experienced it myself. I am 6'2". Look at me. I'm gorgeous. I can get a lot of things going. It just goes that way. And then I've seen it time and time again in locker rooms. Even if you look at a quarterback, Peyton Manning is 6'5". Tom Brady is 6'5". These dudes are huge. Stature plays a massive role when it comes into leading these people on top of charisma and everything else. And I'm pretty sure you could apply good looks into that and you'd see the same thing.
I mean, it's a great argument. Not gonna sit there and pick that one apart. All right. What about you, RJ? What are your thoughts?
So real quick, fact check. Stratton is 6'2" on the Fresno State website. In real life, he's 5'11" and a half, and that's why he got cut by the Seattle Seahawks. Okay? Sorry about that. Just want to point that out real quick. But yeah, I mean, just look at this panel for example. Okay, Steve's the shortest, and no one respects him at all. The reason why me and CJ win every other episode is because we're the tallest. Isn't that right, CJ?
100%.
Just purely based off of our good looks and our height. This is interesting though. I mean, I was looking at this. It is pretty crazy to think the 30% are 6'2" or taller of Fortune 500 CEOs. That's a pretty crazy number. When it was broken down, I think only 3% of men in the world are 6'2" or taller. That is pretty crazy. So obviously, yeah, there's a bias towards it. I don't quite understand it. I've never really thought about it until I saw this question. But yeah, I do think there's a bias.
There you go. Okay. All right. CJ, as another tall lad, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, first, man, happy birthday, Steve. Shout out to all the women watching, by the way. Much love to you all. Yeah, look, what was the stat, Potter? Is it under 6'2"?
Under 6'2", yes.
Yeah, it's a tough life. It's a tough life. I think it's tough, man. I mean, sometimes I see people, and I mean this respectfully, sometimes I see people, sub 6 foot. And I say, I'm like, dang. I wonder what that guy's got to go through. I just did this the other day when I was getting a coffee at Starbucks. Saw a guy, came in the door about RJ's height. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dang, bro. I'm like, I wonder what that guy's going through today just because of his height. You know what I mean? He's got to go check in the hotel. He's got to get the ADA compliant room. To make sure that everything is, appropriate. So I got to imagine when it comes to being a CEO, if the CEO was 5'5",
Oh, bro.
and I just don't see that. Look, I just don't know that goes well, man. I think that's tough.
Oh man. All right. Can't argue with it, CJ. Can't argue with it. All right. Steve, thoughts?
Pass.
Nope.
Pass.
Absolutely not.
So, first of all, being the only person here apparently that's not 6 foot tall, I feel like we need to pass some legislation for equity here. There's clearly a wage gap, a pay gap between 6+ and 6 and under. So I'm going to be writing a letter to my Congress people and tell them that we need to have some legislation to even out the wages for those 6 foot and up and 6 foot and below. I think that's the only fair way to make this all work out, because it's unfair to people like me. We have nothing going for us. We're just discriminated against left and right.
Nothing.
So
nothing.
So to answer this question, to answer this question, of course there's a bias, and it's everything that Stratton mentioned, right? We naturally assess our environment and we give attributes. For men, it's been well documented for a very, very long time. If you're 6 foot and taller, you're pretty much damn near guaranteed to make 6 figures, right? Guys have to be taller. Women have to be better looking. And if they are that way, they just do better financially. There's no way around that. That's the reason why we want to have good looking women in our advertisements. And the last thing I want to end this with is like, what happened to Stratton, right? Like, he's 6'2" with a helmet and cleats on, right? He's good looking, and he still ended up where he's at. How did this happen?
Oh man, we're definitely canceled after this episode. This is the last part of this run. This is it right here.
I think when you're under 6 feet, and I'm not, so I'm just it's a hypothesis, but I think when people are under 6 feet, I think they spend so much time worried about being under 6 feet.
You're out of your goddamn mind.
Shout out to Steve. I think they operate in a space where they're thinking about it so much that they can't focus on the task at hand of ascending to a path of being CEO and thinking about all these complex things. So look, if you're under 6 foot like Steve, I've seen people out here with the heeled shoes on, right? Stem cell research is coming a long way, perhaps, right? And they even got the thing now where you can like stretch your limbs.
Yeah, they got that surgery for Steve-O, bro. He sent me the quote the other day.
So we're gonna go. We're doing a GoFundMe for Steve's femur stretching operation, so I can get to 6 foot tall, so I can finally make 6 figures.
No, I think I see all these agents coming over to Real, nationwide.
My guy.
Everybody coming over to Real. Shout out to you guys being ahead of the curve. And I think once y'all's stock goes up, those shares, maybe you liquidate just a few, Elon style, right? And get a femur stretch, man.
Get that femur stretch.
Yeah.
I will say there was an event that I spoke at West Palm Beach, Florida. And when I was walking in, a guy saw me come up the escalator and he was like, RJ Bates. And then as we walked up, he goes, dude, I thought you'd be so much taller. I thought you would for sure be like 6'5", and then just walked away. Me being 6 foot was like such a disappointment to him. It was just like, yeah, I don't even care to like talk to you anymore. So
and his name was Steve Trang. So I've also actually at multiple events, people walk up to me and they're like, wow, you're a lot taller than thought you'd be. I was like, is it because I'm Asian? Like, why did you think I'd be a short person?
That's exactly what it is, bro. They imagine a 5'4" dude just sitting there and his legs in the chair are just spinning back and forth.
Thank you for the illustration, Scotty. Thank you for the illustration. Like a freaking first grader.
Okay. So I think everybody won that round. Shout out to CJ throwing Real in there. We appreciate you, for the for the advertisement there. We're gonna get into question number 3, which is our viral video this week. Check it out.
I never really considered that until your book. I never considered that thinking about your problems all the time and talking about your problems all the time literally make the problems grow.
That's right. I mean, it's the number one symptom of depression is what they call rumination, this pathological obsessing over your pain.
Yeah.
That's why stuff like exercise, that's one of the reasons, aside from chemical reasons, one of the reasons that doing anything, that running errands is good for your mental health, getting out of your house and accomplishing anything is good for you. But sitting around talking and thinking about your problems, that's a bad habit. And the best cognitive behavioral therapists, the first thing they do is try to break that that bad pattern. But a lot of therapists just indulge it.
All right. What do you make of Abigail Schreier's remarks about anxiety and depression among Gen Z? Start us off, RJ.
Yeah, as far as the video itself goes, I mean, when you're talking about always constantly thinking about your problems, this is something that I talk to our community about, our employees. Hey, things aren't going well. You get into a rut. You feel like you can't close a deal. You feel like every deal is going to have title issues. Everything's going to fall apart. I'm a firm believer in, self-talk and building that momentum for yourself and believing, like speaking in the existence. So I do think this is a huge problem. And I think it's a huge problem in the entrepreneur space, right? You're going to run into struggles. You're going to run into issues. And if you're consistently speaking that into existence and believing that those are going to happen, that's where you just inevitably fail. So I absolutely agree with what they're talking about there. And it's something I'm always preaching to make sure you're talking to yourself and speaking into existence what you really want.
There we go. Manifestation is definitely happening over there in RJ Bates camp. We like it. All right, CJ, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think social media era that we exist in now is just dangerous, right? Every time you open up the app, there's somebody that's got an opinion on something. There's somebody telling you that you're depressed. There's somebody telling you that you're poor. There's somebody telling you that you're, all this stuff. I think that has a lot of impact on Gen Z, man. I don't, they haven't had an opportunity to just almost think for themselves, right? You see kids that got phones at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. All these kids got Snapchat. They're looking at you go on Pinterest now, and they got reels on Pinterest, man. So I think a lot of people's minds in Gen Z are just getting hit with so much stuff, and that stuff they're getting hit with is outside opinion, not internal opinion. They can develop themselves.
There you go. Outside influences are creating their reality. All right. What about you, Steve? What are your thoughts on this?
I had a really hard time listening. I was so focused on my being short. I'm still depressed. I've been focused on that this whole time.
He's trying to get his feet on the floor.
Yeah, trying to touch the floor right here with my shoes on. She makes a totally valid point, right? Like, I think that everyone's so focused on what's wrong, and they just stay there, right? Like, you got the serenity prayer, God grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change things that I can, the wisdom to know the difference. I think that's powerful. I think you look at worry, it's just negative energy about the future, and regret is just negative energy about the past. These are things you can't change. The only things you can change are the here and now, right? So I think those that can focus on the here and now, feel empowered to do something about it. Those that are always worried are going to be stuck in that negative place, right? And unfortunately, we are being taught, I think we've become a much weaker society, to just focus on all the things that are wrong and just keep dwelling in it and dwelling on that instead of actually doing something about it. Instead of, picking yourself up by your bootstraps and getting out there and changing something. Let's just worry about the past. It's a lot easier.
Steve coming in like a self-help, section over there. I like it. All right. What about you, Stratton? What are your thoughts on this one?
All right. I'm going to take this a little bit deeper. When I was 16 years old, I had a massive mental breakdown and tried to take my own life. And I've had 10 years to analyze all of those thought tracks, right? Like 10, 12 years to think about that, right? All the shame, anxiety, depression, and where it all came from, right? So it came from shame because I felt like I wasn't living up to the way everything was. If I had social media, to make it way worse. And then I tore my hamstring. And so I thought my life was over because I didn't have any possibility of making the NFL when everybody told me from 12 years old on, hey, you're going to go to the NFL, you're going to do awesome. And I was like, my life is over. But looking back at it, all of it was like that internal locus of control. And I felt like I didn't have control of my life anymore. And it had all been taken away from me. Right? So if we want to apply what Steve talked about and what RJ talked about, if I would have applied the positive self-talk and felt like I had control over my life, that would be something completely different, to where I don't think a lot of kids these days have a lot of responsibility to even see that they can control their lives. Right, to go out there and go and do something because they have no responsibilities. Most of them don't even have a driver's license anymore. So if they're controlling their internal thoughts and thinking positive and having like all the right things, and I think community is a huge part of it as well, then the depression will slightly go away. But in all reality, I think it goes from having responsibility and having control of your life, or at least believing you can control the circumstances that you're in. Because like when she talked about someone getting bullied in middle school, blah, 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 that's over. If that happens now, I know I have the tools to control the situation and get out of it. And then you can stop thinking about the past.
Did Trang just say he's 26?
I'm 28, sorry.
Son of a bitch. All right.
They don't teach math at Fresno State.
What was that, RJ?
I said they don't teach math at Fresno State.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All at Fresno State.
Yeah. So going back to what CJ said, though, just go a little bit deeper here, because to counteract or to counter argue what Stratton's talking about, community isn't enough, because there are negative communities as well, right? Social media's job is to keep you glued to the app. Yeah. If you're in Facebook groups that talk about how crappy life is, that's going to be the community you're in. If you're on TikTok and you're watching videos about all the weird feelings and thoughts you have, you're going to get more things about how this is normal. So the community isn't necessarily the answer either.
I agree. And like on that note, Steve, and CJ brought up the social media aspect of this. This is a huge concern that I have for my kids coming up and in the next generation, right? Quite frankly, my son gets made fun of. He's 11 years old, and he's the only kid on his hockey team that doesn't have a cell phone. And I keep telling him,
that was my daughter, RJ. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I told him, I'm like, son, the moment you get a cell phone, you have it for the rest of your life. Yeah. Like, enjoy the fact that you don't have one, because there's a lot more negative that comes with having it than not having it. Enjoy being a kid. And here's the thing. When we talk about opening up social media, CJ, like, there are people out there, not to pick on one, but this is everyone knows what I'm going to talk about. Andy Elliott says, you can't work for me if you don't have a six-pack. How many people watched that, looked up to Andy Elliott and say, I'm not good enough to be there because I don't have a six-pack? And he thinks that's making a positive movement for people. But there's a lot of people that say, I'm not good enough now. I'm not good enough to be where Andy Elliott says I could go create my own reality. How many people reacted to that negatively? Like, for example, when you went out and said people shouldn't make organic content, bro, like I was depressed for like a month.
Yo.
Well, and listen, but that speaks to the influence of social media, right?
Yeah.
You know, ultimately at the end of the day, you know, everybody's getting hit with something, especially Gen Z, right? Like we, at least in our age, and people who are older, have the awareness of like pre-social media, right? But like if you're our kids' age, right? Like, I mean, all you know is the world that we exist in right now, which is a social media influenced world, right? And you know, it's sad in a way, but what really ends up happening is, RJ kind of just said it, whatever negative thought you have, opinion, you know, whatever, you're going to be hit with the algorithm about it.
Yeah.
As soon as you get online. And it's only going to just continue to drive that mindset, right? If you're dealing with relationship issues, and boom, you're going to be hit with stuff about why you've got relationship issues and you need to fix this, you need to fix that. And whether it's, you know, money, right? You're going to be hit with those different things. And like the Andy Elliott comment, what's unfortunate and dangerous, right? Like we got a political question on here. I know Stratton, RJ, and Steve are super excited. And so what happens, right, is everybody's a politician now. That's the hard truth. Everybody's a politician now. Everybody with a cell phone that's posting quote unquote content, whether you're a normal person that has nothing for sale, or if you're somebody who does have something for sale, everybody's a politician now. So we got to stop shitting on politicians because we all do the same thing, right? And so what happens is everybody's got their platform about what they're trying to get somebody to see, what they're trying to get somebody to understand. And so what happens, unfortunately, RJ, is the common person, the working guy that's working in a factory right now that is trying to get inspired and motivated in his life really, truly looks up to Andy Elliott. He thinks that everything that Andy Elliott is saying is meant to help and from an organic, genuine place to change his life. When in reality, man, I'm sure Andy's just trying to sell some shit.
So,
Yeah.
So two things real quick. First, RJ's pointing out that his 11-year-old can't have a cell phone. Potter's echoed the same.
Yep.
CJ understands that pain because he went through the same thing. I'm going through that fight right now. I got an 11, 12-year-old. Neither of them are allowed to have a cell phone, right? So I think there's something there, something to consider, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, if you have a six-pack, go work for Andy Elliott. If you don't have a six-pack and you're a performing sales rep, disruptorsjobs.com.
There you go.
Bro, I think, like, have you guys read Power vs. Force? I think I got the book from Steve.
Yep.
Like, wherever your energy goes and that focus goes, that thing is going to grow. And I think that is one thing that is not taught in schools. I'm pretty woo-woo. I feel like we all are very big on self-talk. So if you keep focusing on it and focusing on it and focusing on it, that thing is just going to blow up. And it's going to essentially just devour your entire life. And I think with my kid, my son listens to a bunch of self-help books with me, right? And I know Steve's big on this too. Like when I'm driving in the car, I'm like, hey, we're going to learn on the way to Taekwondo practice. Whether we're learning about like raising private money, listening to like Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza. Because I think we have to arm our kids with those tools early if we want them to be successful. Because like social media is wild. Even we get caught up in comparison. Nobody here can say that they don't. I send Steve videos of Andy Elliott all the time. He's furious he doesn't have a six-pack.
Let me take it a little bit further than that. It's not just the social media. It's also the like going to the cell phone aspect for our kids. It's the group text message threads with all of the other kids and the negativity that
whatever influence they've got, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they've been exposed to. Yeah.
Yes. The bullying that goes on there, the name calling, the body shaming. These are the things that cause that depression amongst our younger generation, where they don't even understand what they're doing to each other mentally. That's the scary part about what even just cell phones can do for our kids.
Well, I mean, we were pretty bad as kids. I mean, look at this show, right? Like RJ's talking about anti-bullying and he's being mean to me, right? So that's first. And second, like the danger of social media is you might think it's appropriate to have an all green screen, right? Like, look at this right now.
I've never made fun of you, Steve. I've only spoken the truth about you.
Right.
Oh man, this is great. Like can't even be mad at this. I do love this conversation. I'll share this one with you, with you guys. My now 19-year-old daughter, for the longest time, didn't have a cell phone until I believe she was almost 13, was when she finally got one. To this day now, she thanks us for not giving her a cell phone at 10, 11, 9, whatever the age was. So there's your perspective. She's like, dude, I'm really glad I still had a childhood rather than just being glued to that and being involved in some drama. So
Your kids have tablets?
my little
We have a
kids?
tablet that, my son
Yes.
can play on like for an hour a week.
Yeah, they
The one
they have designated screen time, but it's only I think only Saturday and Sunday is the only time we allow it, and it's pre-approved, like things that actually help them learn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about you guys? I'm just interested in hearing your answer.
They're only allowed to watch Real Estate Disruptors.
these poor children.
I'm probably similar to Potter. For my daughter, she didn't even have a TV for years, man. Probably, I don't know, maybe 5th grade. Just, I don't know. For me, it was just always, I remember one time when she was super young, like I was doing the dad thing, right? And trying to do some other stuff, dropped her in a pack and play in front of the TV so I could try to get something done. She's like, 2 years old or something like that. And I saw the mental attachment when the TV went off. And I was just like, yeah, no, it's not going to work. Right. Yep. But she's got 3.7 GPA. She's scheduled to graduate 2 years early. Right. And a lot of that is because she cares about things other than just being entertained all the time.
Yeah. My kids
entertained all the time.
My kids have very limited screen time. They each have tablets, but that's mainly for when like we're traveling and on planes and stuff like that. They don't have any TVs in the room. And then as far as social media goes, the only thing that I allow is my son can watch the NHL TikTok because he's obsessed with hockey and he can watch it for about 10 minutes every night. And then it's like, hey, bro, turn it off. Outside of that, it's go be a kid. Enjoy being a kid. You only get it once.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. The other day I came home. I think it was actually from hosting this. I came home, walked in the door, and Nicole was like, hey, the kids have been outside playing for the last 6 hours. And I was like, good. Way to be kids. Like, that's what it's about. Like, go outside, get dirty, learn about stuff. That's what it should be about. Love that question. Love the direction that it went in. This is awesome. All right. Before we get into question number 4, word from Mr. Pat Hilton, our sponsor over at Acoustic Force Media.
The world is changing. So is the world of business. It's never been easier to get your message out to the entire planet. Let me help you crack the code today. My name is Pat Hilton. My social media agency can produce you the same custom digital content that landed me on stage at the biggest business events in the world. I've rocked the roof off with the best digital marketers in the game. Getting social media content filmed and produced for your business is now as easy as ordering a cup of coffee and hopping on a video call with your friend. We find trending topics in your niche, coach you through recording in the comfort of your home or office, create engaging clips and graphics, then upload them online and manage all your social media pages. Bring your brand to life. Contact Acoustic Force Media today.
There we go. Thank you, Pat, for all you do for us over here on Pardon the Disruption. We got a good game going here. It's a close game. I want to see some A+ answers on these last two. All right. Russell Wilson was recently released from the Denver Broncos. What do you think of their decision to part ways and take on $85 million in dead money? Start us off, CJ.
I like it. Look, they're not playing a game to win this year, right? Why would you not get rid of the guy? He's a shell of his former self. Doesn't seem as focused on football. They overpaid him to begin with. Sometimes in business, we make bad plays, right? Make bad decisions. I have learned from experience, the faster you can take an L and get down the road, the better. And so I think they made a great decision because he's not their future quarterback, and that's what they need to be planning for.
I love that comment, bro. Like, the sooner you can cut ties on a bad investment, the better. Like, that's just what you got to do. All right, Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
This is similar to a lot of things we've talked about in the past on this show, right? Like the asking yourself, knowing what I know today, would I hire this person again? And the answer is no. Then it's time to part ways, right? If they left, would you be unhappy? No, get rid of them. It's the same thing here. And the other rule, right? I think Stratton brought this up on a different episode. If your name comes up in 3 different leadership meetings, it's time to go. And I think that's what happened here. I think it's the right move. I mean, the reality is Russell Wilson has always sucked. I say that respectfully as a Cardinals fan, right? So he's always been trash. And I am a bit of a hater here. I'm glad to see him fall apart. I'm glad to see the Broncos fall apart. So I think this was the right move for both parties. But also as a business move, if we had our team, this is no different than like, hey, I got a property. I put $8,500 non-refundable earnest, right? But now that I've got this property under contract and I find out all these things, should I buy it anyway because I don't want to lose the $8,500, or would I just lose the $8,500 because I don't want to lose any more money?
There we go. Steve is absolutely undefeated in his hate of NFC West teams, other than the Cardinals, clearly. All right, Stratton, your thoughts?
I think Russ was too short to be a quarterback. Nobody respected him because he was too short. But in all reality, I think he was toxic, bro. I think he was a toxic choir boy who couldn't lead a group of men. And everybody saw it. You saw with like the Seahawks stuff. And then everybody started to hate him like a little bit at the end of it. And then if you bring him in, I think from Denver's perspective, just like everybody said, you took a bet that you thought didn't have a whole ton of downside. You're like, hey, you know what? We're going to go for it. We're going to try and get this W. What's our worst possible outcome? It is this. We're okay with going taking the bet, paying him a ton of money. It didn't work out. And like Chris said, take the L and just bounce right back up and keep going, because that's how you're going to keep it pushing. And then they'll probably build forward and again another 3 years. I mean, but Russ sucks.
Hopefully
I can't stand Russ. I can't stand him, bro. I think he's terrible. I don't think he can lead. The choir boy aspect and like the fakeness when you're in an NFL locker room, you have to be such a good leader to like talk to so many different demographics and people. And if you're trying to be fake about the whole thing, you're going to lose everybody.
Yeah, I think Russ Wilson came into the league.
I don't know if you know how this works or not, but I forget.
CJ did take a couple weeks off, bro. You got to let RJ at least.
That's true. Strat was just spot on. My bad. I think what just happened is like RJ's got the green on with this backlight going on in green. I think he just blended in. I didn't even know he was there, man.
Bro. All right, we're gonna give RJ a chance. We're gonna give RJ a chance. All right, RJ, what are your thoughts?
So first and foremost, they should have never gotten Russell Wilson. But to follow that up, today they just released Justin Simmons, who is their all-pro safety, longest tenured player, the face of the locker room. I think that's a mistake. And obviously they're just trying to revamp everything. So my thought is, instead of taking the dead cap hit, why wouldn't you just keep Russell Wilson for another year and let him guarantee you getting a top 5 draft pick for next year? I mean, that's one thought that you could have taken on this, because they're the 12th pick here. They're not going to get a QB. So what are they replacing him with? It is a little bit of an odd move. It's obviously a historical move as far as dead cap hit. And also, I just don't know if Sean Payton should be back coaching again. I didn't like how Sean Payton handled last year. I thought the move at the end of the year was weird because he actually got it to where Russell Wilson was playing better at one point. They were competitive in games that, quite frankly, talent-wise, they shouldn't have been competitive in. And then he benched him. And so all of this is weird. Right now, I think the Broncos is like the ultimate dumpster fire of an organization in the NFL, and it's just odd how they're handling everything.
I love it. You know, for those of you guys that aren't aware behind the scenes, CJ has a policy that we're not allowed to give RJ CJ's cell phone number, right? Like, he's just adamant against it, right? And what's crazy is that's exactly what Russell Wilson did to Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
Right? Russell Wilson wouldn't give his cell phone to Marshawn Lynch. That guy carried your team, right?
That video where Marshawn Lynch is talking about it is the most awkward video of all time, where you're like, is he just so high he's making this up right now? Or is this really what happened?
Yeah. So you talk about toxic leadership. Like, I'm with Stratton. You got to lead everybody. 6 foot and up, 6 foot under. We have to lead everybody equally, evenly, equitably, right? All that good stuff. But also, to be a good leader, maybe you should give other people your cell phones, CJ.
I'll take that under advisement. Take it under advisement.
I think if you sign up for the Bolt, you do. Like, if you get access, I think you get CJ's cell number.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm changing my number this year though, so and I'm gonna just do it in a fashion where I'm just not gonna give any notice. It's just like if I hit you on the new line, like, you got it. And I'm gonna leave the old number on for a little bit so people think they're reaching out and they don't feel like I just switched the number on them right away. But so RJ, just heads up.
Shut up, CJ. Back on Russell Wilson. Has there ever been a quarterback in the NFL that has just fallen as hard as Russell Wilson has after one play? Like, he's 1 yard away from winning another Super Bowl, throws that interception, and it's like his career has just completely plummeted since then. And it's come out that, like, no one likes him, has ever liked him. I mean, it's honestly astonishing because he was at the top.
How tall is he?
There.
He's like 5'9". Like, it's amazing that he's even alive.
He's a statue of a man. A statue of a man.
It's hard to survive at 5'9". But if we take this and we apply it to just business, you have to fire the toxic employee immediately, and you have to get them out of the locker room because they're going to destroy everything. Like, cancer is real, and they're just going to go and pull everybody down. And if you have a toxic leader leading everyone, bro, it's all going to fall apart. You saw with the Broncos, you saw with the Seahawks at the end of it. You cannot have that toxic person.
What was Pete Carroll doing? I mean, like,
chewing gum.
Chewing gum.
That's what I want to know. And on that note, how did the Broncos not know that Russell Wilson was this toxic when they basically gave away the entire organization to get Russell Wilson? I mean, literally, they had no intel on the fact that this dude is just a douchebag.
Maybe you just want to sabotage. Maybe you just want to.
I don't know that he's a douchebag, right? I think it's to Stratton's point. He's got no swag, right? he's got no strong energy. He's got, what did you say, 5'9"? He's got shout out to Steve. Maybe he's got 5'9" energy, right? And I think he's just, I think he's coming in the locker room, throwing off the
Find
vibes,
another panelist for next week. I'm out of here.
He's they got future playing.
Steve, I can't remember.
Legitimately though, like, you can't play future in the locker room with Russell Wilson.
Like, who doesn't want to listen to future
in the locker room? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he's coming in there. He's throwing on Kirk Franklin or whatever. Shout out to Christian, music and all that. I'm a Christian, right? But sometimes I want to listen to Future too.
On the Marshawn Lynch interview where he's talking about the fact that Russell Wilson wouldn't give him his phone number, what did he tell him to do?
Just talk to the caddy or like the someone on the team, right? The
administrative
handler
or something. Yeah.
Dude,
I mean, that's not good energy, CJ. And there's more stories about him doing that inside of the Seahawks organization.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if he's trying to talk to me direct or if he's talking, or if he's talking about Russell Wilson.
I think he's trying to talk to your handler. Get your handler to talk to RJ.
Yeah, shout out to RJ Bates, man.
All right, we're going to get into question number 5. 4 was clearly amazing. This one's going to be great. CJ had alluded to it. We have our political question of the week here, apparently. It's trending. It is, the Biden administration is proposing a credit card late fee cap of $8 as a campaign against junk fees. Do you feel this measure will help consumers with credit card debt, or hurt them as credit access might be more difficult to acquire? Start us off, Steve.
Well, I'm glad we finally fixed the credit card problems, right? Like, this is it. This is it. Like, all the credit card debt situation is now fixed, right? We're not going to have is it $14, $34 junk fees, right? I understand what they're trying to do. Like, the intent is great, right? The intent is good. Let's reduce all the fees that the consumers incur. I get it, right? But what else have we done with good intent? We went to Iraq, right, to stop a madman. That's one of the worst decisions.
There was no good intent there. Don't
allegedly, it was a good intent.
There. Don't lie to yourself.
This is my time. All right. So anyway, there are a lot of things that we try to do with good intent, and the outcome is generally worse. Every time we do something, there's going to be a consequence, unintended consequence. I tend to believe that everyone in the government, they make decisions looking at the first order, and it's great. The first order consequence is always great. We never look at the second and third order consequences. I'll give you a perfect example here in Arizona. We banned payday loans here. Understandable, right? Why should people be making 22, 24, 80% APR on these loans? I get the intent. So we got rid of them. Now what do we have? Predatory title loans, where if you can't make your payments, you lose your car, right? So before it was like, don't do any payday loans because we don't want these people to pay high interest rates, despite the fact that they can't go to a bank to check their to cash their check because they have terrible banking history. So now instead of going to a payday loan to cash your check, now you have to put up your car. And if you don't make your payments, you lose your car. And now you can't even get a freaking job. So I think that we never look at the second, third order consequences. And that's what's shameful about all of this.
I can't believe this. I took a week off and Steve somehow all of a sudden had great answers for this week. I don't understand what's going on here. All right, Stratton, your thoughts on this one?
9 times out of 10, I believe regulation is not the answer, because like generally the free market should take care of itself, and we can see it in all these different spaces to where all the margins get competed away down to zero. Eventually, if you don't let them consolidate, another company will come in and keep lowering the fees and lowering the fees and lowering the fees until the fees are very nominal. But if you let them consolidate and retain power, then those fees will never go away, right? And so we talked about a couple weeks ago, we have, Capital One and Discover merging. And that was one thing I was like, no, you shouldn't let them do that. That's way too much consolidation. It's monopoly. And then that's what will cause things like that. But in the open market, more times than not, prices will get shrunk down and everything will be fine. We can apply this to the real estate space. You saw it with skip tracing. It started off at 25 cents a skip. It is now officially 6 to 2 cents, right? You can take it to cold calling. Wages used to be super high. Now you can get it down to like $6 an hour. We can take it down to like prop stream. You can name all these things in the open market to where there's margin there. And then eventually, as the market sorts itself out, all those margins get shrunk down to zero or to very razor thin. And then that's what helps and benefits the consumer. And so if you are going to do this, it's not going to help anything, and that they're going to make up margin in some other type of way.
There you go. All right. I like it. All right, RJ, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, who are we pandering to right now? I mean, we're going to the consumer and we're saying, hey, you didn't pay your bill on time, and that's not your fault. You know, it's Discover's fault. It's Capital One's fault, right? So we don't want them to charge you $24 for being late on the loan that you took out from them. We're going to only let them charge you $8. I think it's just a microcosm of the society that we have right now, where the vast majority of Americans are looking to the government and saying, please help me. Help me with the fact that I don't know, I have no financial literacy. I don't know how to manage my budget. And I go out and I consume, what is it? It's $1.13 trillion of consumer debt right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact, it's not the late fees that's killing these people. It's the fact that they have no financial literacy and they don't know how to budget themselves and they don't know how to make more money. This is the problem, not the late fees. And so this is, in my opinion, the Biden administration trying to get people that are not well off right? Their voter base to feel more warm and fuzzy just a couple of months before the election, right? It's one more thing to notch on their belt to say, see, we're here for you. We're always taking down those big, bad, ugly banks that are trying to charge you $24, and we're only going to make them charge you $8. Just pay your damn bill on time.
Okay, there you go. All right, you got RJ Bates' opinion on that one. All right, CJ, what are your thoughts on this one?
That was good, RJ. I like I like how RJ said that towards the end. It's kind of like that same marketing tactic they used, whoever that was, with the stimulus checks. That was good. So look, when I look at this, right, like this whole Biden late fee. Remember that marketing strategy? That was good. So it's like this cap of a late fee, at $8. I mean, what are we talking about? Right. I mean, ultimately, if you got boy. I don't know if you know that or not, but in all seriousness, I'm excited about June getting here because I can't wait to sit back and just observe how crazy people go during election season. I'm just gonna be chilling as I always am, paying attention to what's going on and just pivoting as needed, whoever's in office. But this is weird, right? Like an $8 credit card late fee cap. I don't know what it accomplishes. I was going to say exactly what Stratton said. I agree 110%. This is how industries work, right? Like if somebody wants to lower their late fee, they're going to lower it, right? To have more appeal. This sounds like the Airbnb cleaning fee, right? Like,
bro, that's a great one.
Like what are we really talking about, right? Like they're going to make it whatever they make it, and people are going to decide to get a credit card with this company or not. The problem is these credit card companies realize that, people are still going to use credit cards that they give them credit limits, regardless of what the late fee is, period. So they can keep raising it really as much as they want because people will keep borrowing. Just like if you've got a really dope Airbnb and you're charging crazy amount for a cleaning fee, if somebody wants to stay there bad enough, they're going to agree to pay it.
I mean, my thing is if he really wanted to help out the people because they can't control themselves, get them to lower the interest from 29.99% down to where it's capped out at 9.99%. At least that would move the needle on the amount of debt that they're accumulating. I'd be curious to see how much debt was accrued on late fees.
I don't think that works because then there's no debt access, and then the company won't exist because they won't make any money. Right?
They're not going to.
The limits are so high is because there's a high default rate. They still need to make yields. Like it's because it's a higher risk type of investment for them and the pension funds and everything else behind them.
Yeah, it's a non-collateralized loan
because they still have to make money.
Yeah, it's a non-collateralized loan,
so
there's no recourse.
Risk involved. Yeah.
Right. So I think and if you get rid of the fee, then what do? They're going to raise the APR. Or if they don't raise the APR, they're going to have a higher annual fee, right? Or if they don't give you a higher annual fee, then they're going to decline the loan. And now you don't have access to credit. Like this idea that you can just remove one thing is going to fix everything. No, like it's the same way we negotiate creative deals. How much money do you want today? What's the price you want later on? What's the interest rate? And how long you're willing to carry the term? You get to pick two. We'll pick the other two, right? Okay, we're going to reduce the late fee, so we're going to increase the APR. Or we're going to do some amount of credit available. Or we're going to charge you an annual fee. Like this idea, like it's just a talking point, and that's what's frustrating about it. It's just pandering without actually solving the problem.
It's not there to help anybody because this doesn't move the needle enough. And to your point, they'll just make up for it somewhere else.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, the only point of that, the reason why they're proposing this legislation is so that PTD gets more viewers and subscribers. So make sure you guys subscribe, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, I got my buddy, JD Mesnar. He's at the U.S. Senate, and he proposed a bill that got a lot of support in the committee, and it went to when it went to the floor, it got killed by Democrats. The bill was to require every person to graduate high school has to take a class on financial literacy. Exactly what we've been talking about the last few months. Financial literacy is a problem. So he was proposing that to graduate high school in Arizona, you have to take at least one class on financial literacy. And they killed it on the floor.
So what's interesting about you saying that is the Democrats killed that. But then they come out, and then the same party now is saying, hey, we want to lower these junk fees. Why would that get killed? I don't understand that.
Because the guy that led the charge, his words were, don't quote me on this, something along the lines of financial literacy is not the problem.
And that's like that is the crux of the problem. Is financial literacy from a young age and understanding the way money works.
Yeah. So I told him next time he submits it, let me know ahead of time so I can go on my soapbox and push this. But yeah.
I
only bill I've heard about in Arizona.
I can guarantee you, if you go talk to if we polled people from the age of 18 to 25 and you ask them, do you feel like you came out with adequate enough knowledge on financial literacy and what being an adult was going to be? It would be overwhelming that no, I was not prepared to be an adult and I have no idea. The only way I learned is by failing over and over and over again, unless someone outside of the school system helped them.
We got to do that poll from 23 to 27 because from 18 to 22, they're still stupid. Like we got to, they think, listen, I was freaking invincible when I was 18. You couldn't kill me when I was 18. Turns out I was mortal, right? Right. So but from 18 to 22, you think you got it all figured out. Right. So they would probably make the argument that they don't need financial literacy. Right. I can get $1.3 trillion worth of Bueno Taco or Taco Bueno. Right. So I think it probably has to be after they graduate college, or if they didn't go to college, then 18 to 22 would make sense because now you actually have real life experience.
For a financial literacy class?
Well, there are arguments for financial literacy class in high school.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
I think you should be learning about it from 12 years old on and just understanding.
If you look in the world that we live in, at least when we grew up, you know, I went to a kid, man. I went to school with a kid, reminds me of RJ. He used to carry around this sack of change, right? I'm not a loose, you know, RJ, you know how I roll. I'm not a loose change kind of guy, but I was growing up with this kid. He was a loose change guy. He used to carry a sack with quarters in it, but at least he knew how to count money, right? These kids now, man, everything's plastic, Cash App, Apple Pay. You know, they don't even know how to count money, really, right? It's not even hardly taught in school. Nobody talks about credit. Nobody talks about balancing the checking account. Nobody teaches you how to read a ledger, right? None of these conversations ever exist. And then at 18, we say to people, hey, go start a business, you know, go get a credit card, go da-da-da-da-da. I think you got to teach people early about money as early as they can come.
Oh, they try to cancel CJ. They cancel CJ.
Here's a question I have is, why do we make the legal age to drink alcohol 21, but you can get a credit card that could ruin you financially at 18? I mean,
it's not ruining you.
It's not ruining you. I mean, you could get rid of it.
Yeah, dude, college student loans are way worse.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
That is like unrevocable no matter what you do. Is like, and you could go get a bad degree with it. I think is the scary part. If the student loan had any like inherent value behind it, that's one thing. But like you go to Fresno State and you get an Africana Studies degree. This is like, no, because they put so many student athletes in this, they make them get an Africana Studies degree. The only thing that they can do with that degree is go teach Africana Studies. You have no other, like you can't translate it well, right? And you can apply that to liberal arts degrees. What underwater basket weaving, it's a joke, but like they offer all sorts of crazy shit. They just want your money. And you can go get $100,000 loan and that will destroy you because you could declare BK. It's still there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I think student loans are way, way worse than credit cards. I mean, credit card debt's bad, but doesn't compare.
I think the problem with credit card debt in comparison to student loans is that their student loans can be beneficial depending on what degree you are getting, right? If you're going to be an attorney or a doctor or something like that, it's necessary. It's a necessary evil. I don't think at 18 years old, there is a necessary evil for you to have a credit card. Specifically, we're saying there's something else that you can't do until you're 21. What is the reason why you can't drink alcohol legally until you're 21, but you can make severely important financial decisions for yourself when you're 18?
But then we could poke a hole in that and say that someone could use the money to go out and make a better lives for themselves. Like they have access to capital now, they can go buy leads and start wholesaling. to like one of my first students was an 18-year-old. Like this kid had just graduated high school and he started doing deals, right? To where access to capital.
You got the Jalen Whites, the Alex Signs.
Yeah, like you still have those people to where if they have access to money, they can go out there and do something with it. It may just
what percent of 18-year-olds do you think are doing that? It's got to be less than 1%.
Probably 1% of 1%.
Right. I mean, I hear the argument, but it's such a small minority that I just don't think that's a viable argument.
RJ sounds like a Democrat. He's taking away opportunities from everyone else.
Oh, CJ's officially left the building now.
But what would you guys say about like an 18-year-old Steve running around 5'5", just pissing vinegar, yelling at everybody, not knowing that he's in a really dangerous world? He's so short, bro. Like, he could get taken out at any time.
5'5", 18-year-old Steve. Would have shut down straight on the football field.
All right. We're good. We're done.
We're done. Someone's got an echo. I think it's CJ.
Yeah.
Was it me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you, bro.
There we go. I think we're fixed. All right. There we go. All right. This was a great show. I'm not even mad at this one. I'm really glad that I was here to participate in this one. Looks like Steve won this week. I'm shocked, just like everybody else is. Like I said, he actually came with some knowledge. Super happy about that. I see RJ's face over there. He is the most unhappy leprechaun I've ever seen. So we got
the wee little leprechaun.
We got that going on. He's swinging around in his chair right now. All right. It has been a great show.
Wait, no. Nah, he's swinging in his chair. You're saying his feet aren't touching the ground. That's crazy.
It's been a great one. Thank you for tuning in to PTD this week. We're going to go ahead and do some outros. Steve, go ahead and say bye to the people.
Great conversation today. You know, there were a lot of stuff that we went and discussed that weren't really necessarily tied to the topics, but I think we went a little deeper on some of these topics. And I'm glad, I appreciate that we have all the panels here to provide insight into this. So I'm hoping that everyone is watching, they got a ton of value. And if it was valuable for you guys, hit that subscribe button. It's really important to me that we help more people. The content that we talk about here today isn't stuff you're going to see on social media, isn't stuff you're going to see everywhere else, right? So if you want other people to digest this content, please share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your colleagues. Even, like I think Matt said before, even share with people you don't like.
Yeah, absolutely. Share it with everybody. Share it with your friends, family, enemies, whatever. Hey, just get the word out. All right. Stratton, say bye to the people.
I thought I had the line of the day. Sorry, women, but I thought I had the line of the day, man. Betas are the worst. But thank you guys so much for having me on. If you need a virtual assistant in your company, go to virtualhelp.io. Give me Trump or give me death. It's time, boys. Biden is here. You got to take him down. You got to take down old man Biden, bro. If they had a good candidate over there, I'd be all about it. If they had a good Democrat over there who could think, I'd be all about it. But it's the Trump train right now. Don't forget to vote. There we go.
There we go. Strat Daddy, you find him on Instagram. You can find him on Instagram. All right. RJ Bates.
CJ looks so perplexed right now.
RJ Bates, say bye to the people.
I just want to point out that I did score the most points today, but every week Potter makes me start in the negatives, and so the final score has Steve as the winner. But on a serious note, our sponsor, Acoustic Force Media, and Pat Hilton, he released his book yesterday, The Force Inside, and it immediately shot up to #1 Amazon bestseller in 4 different categories. And he posted this morning that it's 3rd in the entrepreneur category. So congratulations, awesome. Pat. That's awesome. I remember you when you were literally walking around local RIA events with an acoustic guitar playing like jingles around a lot of us about real estate investing. And now you run a 7-figure company and an Amazon bestseller. So congrats to you, Pat.
Shout out to Pat Hilton. Congratulations on that. That's a huge feat right there. All right, CJ, say bye to the people.
Yeah, bye to the people. Another good week on PTD. Congrats to light skinned Steve, man, on a ferocious victory today of perhaps valid points. Right, 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, man. I'm live. Startflippingdeals.com. RJ, it's great to see you, man. Happy St. Patrick's Day, right? Whenever that's coming up. Stratton, good to see you as well, man. Potter, as always. Everybody be good, man. Peace.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this week. We will see you next week.